As Maharaj explained this morning, there are these two basic principles he talked about, glorification and prayer. But the third one is so intrinsic to our practice that we sometimes just take it for granted, just like we say, Om Jnana Timmirandasya. But that ended with obeisances, namaha. And so, in contemplating the prayers and looking at some of the prayers and the Bhagavatam and other places, I realized that this is also an intrinsic element of, sorry for the spelling there, Hare Krishna, type, of Vandanaā. Vandanaā has these three elements in it, and they're all tied together. And so today we're going to explore these different parts of what Vandanaā is, and see how they work together and how they're integral to our practice of devotional service. So there's Srila Prabhupada before the Krishna Balaram deities in a very prayerful mood. That's a beautiful picture of Srila Prabhupada. So we'll begin with obeisances. There's a book that came out from the BBT that's not so well known. How many of you know this book, Krishna Lila Stava? Okay, not bad. Krishna Lila Stava is a very ecstatic book. It is written by Sanatana Goswami, and it consists of hundreds of verses, 400, 500 verses, that summarize Krishna's Vrindavan Lila, and integrated into those verses are 108 obeisances. So, Namaha, like that. So at the beginning of this, my dear departed friend, Gopi Vandana Prabhu, he translated this book, and he wrote some commentary. Especially at the beginning, there's some nice explanations. So he explains there how technically obeisances are of four kinds. Respectful greetings, abhivadana, bowing down with 8 limbs, ashtanga, which we commonly call dandavat, like a stick. Bowing down with 5 limbs, panchanga, and raising one's hands to one's head, samyoga. Now the only instance that comes to mind of that last one is when Krishna stole the clothes of the gopis. Remember that? He asked them to offer obeisances to Varuna because they had offended him. And they did. And of course, they completed their vow and their request of having Krishna as a husband. And as far as abhivadana goes, this is what when you go into Air India, and the ladies, the stewardess or whatever they call them now, is namaste, namaste, namaste. There's not much there, right? But it's namaste. Respectful greeting, more or less hello. But the ones we're really concerned of, the ashtanga and panchanga, which we do all the time. Ladies, I know panchanga, but you have the spirit of ashtanga. Offering obeisances with one's feet, hands, knees, chest, head, sight, voice, and mind. So all those have to be there. Oftentimes we're not so much with the mind. It says in the Nectar of Devotion that one needs to actually utter prayer. So when we bow down, so Srila Prabhupada, the deities, we should offer the prayer, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya. Or like when we greet the deities, there are actually prayers. There are obeisance prayers that you can offer to each of those deities. I can share them with you if you like. There's so many. For Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda, for Radha Krishna, for Jagannath. So that's real obeisances. But key to this understanding is the meaning of namaha. This was very enlightening to me. I really appreciated this. It was the first purport, practically, or commentary that he wrote. What is the meaning of namaha? So from the Padma Puran, he says, Aham kritir makarasyan nakaras tanashedaka tasmatu namasa chetri svatantriam patishidyate. The syllable ma in namaha indicates false ego, which is negated by the syllable na. Thus, by offering obeisance, one denies his independence as a possessor of his material body. So, real obeisances is a heavy thing. It's a serious thing. Is that when we offer obeisance to the deity, offer obeisance to Prabhupada, to our spiritual master, we're basically declaring by our activity and by our thought and by our words there that this body belongs to you. Just like that famous song by Bhaktivinoda, Manasa Deha Geha, whatever I have, my mind, my body, my household, I dedicate it to you. This is the real spirit of obeisance. And when we contemplate Vandanaā as we go on, and I explain here, we'll see how that spirit is essential for sincere prayers in the mood of a Vaishnava. Now, if you come before the Lord and you're praying for some material thing, obeisances are superfluous. Yeah? In other words, you're not offering yourself completely to the Lord. You're asking the Lord for something. Right? So this is not pure devotion. This is mixed devotion. But in this Hare Krishna movement, we're interested in the pure devotion. So it's important to understand this principle. When we offer Vandanaā Om Vishnu Padaya, it's a declaration of devotion to Srila Prabhupada and the whole parampara and everything. So this is an important first step. So let's look at some of the obeisances, and then the glories of obeisances. This is it's very nice to contemplate here, in this book, in the commentary, Gopi Pranadana Prabhu, he quotes some verses glorifying the act of obeisance. The first one is here from the Narada Purana. Eko Krishnaya Kota Pranamo Dashashrameda Vapritaya Natulya Deshashramedi Punareti Janma Krishna Pranami Nopanapavaya. Completing 10 Ashrameda sacrifices cannot compare with offering a single obeisance to Krishna. One who has performed 10 such sacrifices is born again in this world, but not one who has once bowed down to Krishna. So if we once bow down to Krishna in that full mood, sincerely, then we truly liberated. You can see how practically the whole process of devotion, of surrender, is encompassed in the offering of obeisances. And so we find, what is it? Nana Shastra Sankhya Purvaka Nama Gananativi, in this song about the 6 Goswamis. It says that they measured out their chanting, but they also had measured obeisances they were offering to all Vaishnavas and the Lord. Raghunath Das was like 1,000 obeisances a day. You know? So it's an important part of our sadhana to really offer obeisances with the full mood and the understanding of what it means. You remember, it includes the mind and the voice, as well as the body. So, and then another verse, which is almost, I regard as this is from the, let me bring this up a little bit, sorry. Sorry about that. Hare Krishna. So this is the verse from Brahma's prayers, very important verse, in which he says at the end there that one who has this attitude is assured of going back to Godhead. Some of you may know this verse. You can chant along. Tatte nukampam susamikshamano bunjana evatmakatam vipakam Ridvag vapubhir vidadhan namaste jiveteyo muktipade sadaya bhak. My dear Lord, says Lord Brahma, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. Now one may say, well, who wants liberation? I want prema bhakti, right? So there's a whole pastime with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya where he couldn't stand to hear that word mukti anymore. Those of you who have read the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So he recited this verse for Lord Chaitanya, but he changed it. Bhakti Pade. He changed it to Bhakti Pade. So you can't change the words of the Bhagavatam. And then he explained how this Mukti Pade, Krishna is the master of liberation. If you attain pure devotion to him and you go to the spiritual world, mukti is taken care of. So there's nothing wrong with this phrase, obviously. But we're concentrating here on this line here, namaste. You see, he's explaining here the attitude of offering obeisances with one's heart, words, and body. And at the same time having this attitude of tolerating whatever sufferings come, understanding that it's simply a result of our own past activities. You don't blame anyone else in the world. You don't blame bad luck. You certainly don't blame Krishna. You simply say, this is my fault. I understand that. And with that attitude, Prabhupada explains in a different context, one sees, Krishna's so kind, he's minimizing my trouble. It could have been so much worse. I only broke my leg. I could have broken both legs and both arms or whatever. You know what I mean? It can always be worse. So he says, Krishna's so kind. And then if something good happens, because we have good karma, he said, Krishna's so kind, he's giving me more facility to serve him. Now just analyze this for a minute. In both cases, in every experience that you have in this world, you maintain a positive attitude toward Krishna. You see? You're always saying, this is Krishna's mercy, this is Krishna's mercy. You see? And you're seeing his mercy in everything. And at the same time, offering obeisances, feeling oneself dedicated, body, mind, and words, with that understanding of namaha, and really feeling it from the heart, and glorifying the Lord with one's words, and continuing to serve with one's body. So this is this daya bak is a phrase that's used, Prabhupada explains, to mean like someone who's inheriting something. If you're due to inherit some property or money from your mother or father, then basically you just have to stay alive. You don't have to do anything. So Prabhupada says just stay alive in Krishna consciousness and you go back to Godhead with this standard. So this is going to be our gold standard here of offering obeisances as we proceed. And this sets up the other parts of this Vandanaā. Vandanaā, which has these three parts: offering obeisances, glorification, and prayer, request. You see, all of them are interrelated. So, any questions so far on this analysis of Vandanaā? If you do, just raise your hand. Yes, sir. I'm sorry? Yes. The sight, yes, means that sometimes you see, you see. So you should see, you should see at least on the altar or here, or at least in your mind's eye, there's a person there, there's a form that you're offering obeisances. You're not just offering obeisances to the sky, So there's that aspect as well. There's a person. There's always a person involved. Okay, so now we're going to go through and if you'd like, hopefully we could chant some of these together. These are some famous obeisances from the Shastra. The Bhagavatam is filled with them, and especially in the Bhagavad Gita. Also many in the 11th canto where Arjuna is offering his obeisances to Krishna. So I thought we could chant some of these and maybe analyze them a little bit. So this is from 11th chapter, where Arjuna, now it's interesting that obeisances are really most appropriate, you see, in the Dasya Ras, isn't it? When you get to the friendly Ras, you don't see, Krishna's friends, they don't offer obeisances when he comes to call them. They may jump on his back, and his parents aren't offering obeisances, they're disciplining him, tying him up or worrying about him. And certainly the gopis aren't offering obeisances, you see what I'm saying? But Dasya Ras, which is what we're trying to cultivate, is especially suitable for this, and that's the doorway to all the other rasas. So Arjuna, he of course surrenders to Krishna as a guru, but here when he sees this universal form is when he really feels awed and he offers his obeisance. So this is he's offering from all sides now. Namak porastad ataprishthataste Namostute sarvata eva sarva Ananta viryamita vikramastvam Sarvam samapnosi tatosi sarvaha. Obeisances to you from the front, from behind, and from all sides. O unbounded power, you are the master of limitless might. You are all-pervading, and thus you are everything. So, just one side note on this. I've been studying these teachings of the 9 Yogendras to Maharaj Nimi in the 11th canto. And the first teaching is about fear. Is about how to conquer fear, how to avoid fear, what fear arises from. And I won't go through the whole 11, but one of them is very interesting, and describing how part of the process is to see the whole world is to be the universal form, basically. Seeing the earth, water, fire, air, ether, the directions, the trees, the Sarak Samudram, even the rivers and the lakes and the ocean, as the body of Hari. And then one should offer one's obeisance to everything as being non-different from Krishna. Now, that would be quite time-consuming. I can see as we go to work, we'll stop the car, get out, offer obeisance to the... That's not what's meant here. But it's to understand the presence of Krishna everywhere. Just like here, it says, you are everything. Right? Well, that's very awe-inspiring. That should lead us to that sense of humility and submission that, I am yours. My very body is part of the universal form. It is not mine, it is yours. So he puts that in there. So this is in that same mood. You are everything from all directions, So many other ones. Famous from Kunti's prayers, which we'll discuss later today. Nama Pangajanabhaya, Nama Pangajamaline, Nama Pangajanetraya, Namaste Pangajangrahe. My respectful obeisances are unto you, O Lord, whose abdomen is marked with a depression like a lotus flower, who are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers, whose glance is as cool as the lotus, and whose feet are engraved with lotuses. So it's a very sweet verse. You may be familiar with it. And it's interesting, what is Kunti's relationship with Krishna? Of course, externally she's his aunt. So, as we'll discuss later on, by social convention, an aunt doesn't offer obeisances to the nephew, vice versa, right? So, Prabhupada explains, it's very sweet in the purport, so she doesn't start with the feet. She starts with the navel, see? Because she didn't want to embarrass Krishna. That the aunt is offering obeisance to the feet, so she starts with the navel. But then eventually she gets down to the feet. You see at the end, Pankajangriya. So, find often, because in Kunti, in Devaki, Vasudev, they understand Krishna's divinity, but at the same time, there's some maternal or paternal relationship there, in the case of Vasudeva. And so they sometimes go back and forth. And Krishna, he likes to evoke the more intimate relation, right? So when Vasudeva and Devaki are glorifying him and Balaram after he kills Kamsa as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he says some things to evoke their parental mood, because he likes that more. And in the case of Kunti, she has some of that maternal mood, but at the same time, she understands Krishna is God. So here, she's recalling some of the all-attractive nature of Krishna, this lotus, that he's a Pangajanabhaya. In the commentary, it's explained, that recalls, on the other side, how you have this lotus navel, and from that the lotus grew and Brahma appeared. So there's both sides. And in the next verse, Krishnaya Vasudevaya, she remembers Vasudeva and Devaki, but also Govindaya, and Nanda Kumar. So Kunti is, as often you'll find, has a combination of moods, and she sometimes goes to one side and sometimes to another. In this case. So this is a very wonderful. She's offering obeisances to Krishna, and then she has many prayers which we'll discuss this afternoon. Again from Kunti, Namo Namaha, Krishnaya Vasudevaya, Devaki Nandanaya Cha, Nanda Gopa Kumaraya, Govindaya Namo Namaha. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Lord, who has become the son of Vasudeva, the pleasure of Devaki, the boy of Nanda and the other cowherd men of Vrindavan, and the enlivener of the cows and the senses. So here you see that combination. She remembers Vasudeva and Devaki, but also the sweet pastimes in Vrindavan. She's aware of that. So, going on. So this is the one that Maharaj referred to this morning. He didn't get to chant all of the Sanskrit. I don't know if you can follow along here, but I have a personal account of this particular verse. Back in 1975, you probably all know the history of the 17 books in 2-month marathon. You ever hear of that? Okay, there's a few who don't know that. So I joined ISKCON in 1973 in New York, and that happened to be the place where the press was located. And in those days, you didn't have, the North European BBT and the Far Eastern BBT. You had one BBT, and it was located in New York. And they were making, books in English. There was some translating going on, but basically it was just, that was the BBT. So I was fortunate to join there, and I soon was able to start proofreading and some editing. And then what happened was the books were piling up. Prabhupada is translating. He had done the whole 3rd and 4th canto, and then he did the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita, and we were still kind of trundling along in the 4th canto. And, there was... Prabhupada was upset, because he wanted to see those books come out, and that would enliven him to do more. So he approved of consolidating the BBT in Los Angeles. They had more facility, and everything was... So in May of 75, we all moved to L.A. All the artists, the famous artists, Jadharani and Parikit and Muralidhar and so many others, they moved a little earlier than the production crew moved there. And then shortly thereafter, Prabhupada came to L.A., I think it was in June, I forget the exact chronology, and then everything was set, and so Ramaswara and Radha Ballava, they were the managers. And so they said to Srila Prabhupada on a morning walk, Srila Prabhupada, we think we can put out 2 books every month, where we hadn't even put out 4 books in a year. So that sounded like that was a big increase. And Prabhupada, anyone who's seen these walks, you see some of the videos. He stopped and put his cane down in the sand. It was on the beach. He said, "No, I want all the books in 2 months," and there were 17 books ready to print. So Ramaswara said, "That's impossible, Prabhupada." And the famous line, Prabhupada said, "Impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary," right? It was very significant as it played out. So, what could he do? Ramaswara had to accept that. So he dropped back and he met with Radha Ballava, and they came up with some strategy. Provided they had Prabhupada's okay and his authority to fly in everybody who even knew how to practically read, and who could do any indexing or anything. Shri Shri Kishore Kishore Ki Jai, Gaurnitai Ki Jai, Jagannath Baladev Ki Jai. So, too loud? Yeah. Hare Krishna. So I was drawn into that. I was part of the press, and suddenly, everyone was on a marathon, 24 hours. We had composers in those days. A lot of typing, because you had to retype everything. There was the word processors. The computers were in their infancy in 1975. So I was on the BTG, Back to Godhead, and Jayawaita Maharaj was freed up to work full time on editing the books with Hayagriva. So, to make a long story short, so after a month or so, they became uneasy about Hayagriva working on the books. He wasn't going to the programs. He had long hair. He was starting to... So they said, we need another editor. So there was a contest. There was a Priyavrata chapter. The Priyavrata chapter you're reading now, they gave as a test to several devotees who had some editing skill. And I won that contest. So I got to edit, some of the books. So one of the chapters was the prayers of the residents of Jambudweep. This very prayer. So I'm working on these, the books. This is the original editing. And I come across this prayer, very beautiful. And then I read the purport, work on the purport, and the last sentence, Prabhupada says, is, therefore, any devotee who wants to be free from material desires should offer prayers as Prahlad does in this verse. So, this is a direct instruction to, so I memorized this prayer. And many devotees have because of that line at the end. So it's a little hard to chant, so I'll just chant it myself, and we'll read the English. Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya Namastejas Tejase Avadavir Bhavavaddanaka Vaddadankshtra Karma Shayan Randaya Randaya Tamo Grasa Grasa Om Swaha Abhayam Abhayam Atmani Bhuishta Om Kshram. Now you hear that syllable Kshram? That's the Bij syllable for Nrsingadev, right? Each of the deities, and they have their Bij mantra. And it's, for Krishna it's Kleem. It's very sweet, very, rather than Shreem. But for Nrsingadev, Kshram. You can hear him ripping apart Hiranyakashipu, can't you? Isn't it? And you find so many mantras to Lord Nrsingadev, Chindi, Chindi, Bindi, Kindi. The Sanskrit itself reflects what he's doing. He's destroying the demons, see? So this is a beautiful prayer. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Nrsingadev, the source of all power. O my Lord, who possess nails and teeth just like thunderbolts, kindly vanquish our demon-like desires for fruit of activity in this material world. Please appear in our hearts and drive away our ignorance so that by your mercy we may become fearless in the struggle for existence in this material world. Now here you see the elements of all three elements at once. He offers obeisances, Om Namo. He glorifies Bhagavate, Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then he has various descriptions, Tejas, Tejase. And then he has the prayer. The prayer is, please remove our material desires. So all these three work together, and we'll get more into that as we go on. The role of glorification and then the prayer. But this is a very beautiful one if you're interested. I've given a reference here. The Bhagavatam is filled with these. This is a famous verse. Prabhupada was inspired by this verse, partially, and others, to come to America. This is a prayer of Shukadeva Goswami before in the second canto. Kirato hunandra pulinda pulkasha abhira shumbha yavanakashadaya yenye cha papa yadapashrayashraya Shudyanti tasmai prabhavishnave namaha. Kiratas, Hunas, Andras, Pulindas, Pulkashas, Abiras, Shumbas, Yavanas, members of the Kasa races, and even others addicted to sinful acts can be purified by taking shelter of the devotees of the Lord, due to His being the supreme power. I beg to offer my respectful obeisances unto Him. Now each of these, Prabhupada points out in the purport where these all are. The Hunas are the Huns, the Germans. The Kasas, famously, are the Chinese. We don't say, we speak in China, right? It's Kasadesh, because you don't know the surveillance. They may, Kasadesh means, if you see that, that's China. So, and the others all have to do with different areas. Yavanas, they're outside India. And others who may be impure, so they're not qualified, they're unregulated. But still, if they're able to take shelter of the devotees of the Lord, then they can be purified, and they can go back to Godhead. So this was part of the philosophy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Prithividyachayati nagarati gram. Every town and village in the world, not just in India, my name will be heard, and anyone can take to devotional service. So this idea, and this verse specifically, Prabhupada often quoted, because he saw perfectly how when he was able to spread Krishna consciousness, started going, how people who, from Africa and from New York, and other, barbaric places, became devotees. And they became purified, and they were able to purify others. So and you see, the Namaha is there. He's offering his obeisances. And even the invocation, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudeva, we have the obeisances. It's a central part of our practice, is to offer those obeisances with the mind and the words and the body when appropriate. So let's see, I don't know if I have any more of these. Yeah, from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Practically the whole book begins with Vande. Now it's interesting, the word Vande, we're going to explore what that actually means if you look in the dictionary. But Vande commonly means I offer my humble obeisances. But we also have Vandanam as prayer. You see that means the two different things. Now without the sense of humility and surrender, then prayer really doesn't have any meaning. It's just a business deal. That we offer our obeisances, offer ourselves to Krishna. Then we pray for pure bhakti. Or we pray for those things that lead to pure bhakti, like Prahlad is teaching us to pray, for without any material desire. Please take away my material desires. See, that can happen when we have the proper attitude of submission and surrender that comes with obeisances. So here, first verse of the whole CC. Vande Gurun Isha Bhaktan Ishamisha Avatarkan Tatpakashang Tatchakti Krishna Chaitanya Sangakam. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the spiritual masters, the devotees of the Lord's incarnations, His plenary portions, His energies, and the primeval Lord Himself, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Now it's explained how, Krishna appears in these different forms, as the Guru, as the devotees, as the Lord Himself, like that. It's explained later in the book. And then, this I highly recommend, when you greet the deities, this temple or any temple of Gaur-Nitai, this is a perfect prayer for that. There's a pastime behind this one where Govinda Dasi learned it, in those wonderful days she was traveling with Prabhupada when he was recuperating, like 69, I think, or 68. And when she recited, Prabhupada was very pleased that she was able to, learn this prayer. So it's very easy. Second verse of the whole CC, Adi 1-2. It's to Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda together. Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahoditao Gaudo Dihe Pushpavantao Chitra Shandao Tamonudao. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are like the sun and moon. They have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of Gauda to dissipate the darkness of ignorance and thus wonderfully bestow benediction upon all. Could there be a more beautiful obeisance to Gaur-Nitai? That's ideal. So one thing I wanted to remember, so I don't forget, I'm going to share with you. There's so much information in these, The act of just reading them, reciting them, memorizing them, and uttering them before the deities, we may think, well, I don't have so much devotion. Am I really in that mood of praying to Lord Nrsingadev to rip out my material desires? As Maharaj says, well, maybe this one, but not that one, right? The process of uttering these prayers, of reading them and actually uttering them with whatever devotion, whatever humility you can bring to bear, this is so much of our devotional life is like that. Is you're chanting Hare Krishna, and we know that we're supposed to be completely absorbed and chant with devotion and all these different things and avoid these offenses. But you find, I'm not completely absorbed, and maybe I committed that offense, or this or that. But you don't give up. You keep chanting. And by the effort of doing that, Krishna reciprocates within the heart. And eventually, you actually begin to make some advancement and give up some of the things you should give up and so forth. And the same thing is true with all of these verses. And just, all of the writings of Srila Prabhupada. We read them, we try to enter into the mood, memorize if you can, repeat them, and the very meaning that's there enters deep into the heart, and Krishna reciprocates, and you're able to, by contact with the mood in which they're offered, by meditating or thinking about the meanings, you're purified. You get closer to the actual thing. So we shouldn't hesitate, to investigate these prayers. Those that are Prabhupada offered so much, like this Kirata Hunanda, or that he recommends, the one for Nrsingadev. It's a big surrender to memorize all that Sanskrit. But I'm telling you, it's a powerful prayer. So what I'm getting at is that these are all gifts. All of these vibrations, all of these books, all of these writings that we can associate with through our intelligence, and by that means enter into the mood of them and become purified. This is one of the things that I've discovered. And of course, his famous prayer, many of you know. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gora Trije Namaha. And there's Rupa Goswami offering obeisance to Lord Chaitanya. He's the author of this. O most munificent incarnation, you are Krishna himself, appearing as Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You have assumed the golden color of Srimati Radharani, and you are widely distributing pure love of Krishna. We offer our respectful obeisances unto you. So there's so much could be said. There's so much tattva. There's so much philosophy just in this understanding. And Rupa Goswami is revealing who Lord Chaitanya really is here. Very important. You know, when you see Lord Chaitanya, you can offer this prayer and obeisance. There it is. So that's the obeisance part. Now we're going to discuss a little bit about the glorification part. Because you see, it sets up a contrast. We're insignificant, right? We feel ourselves, we're helpless in this ocean of material misery, right? And our only hope is to get the shelter of the Lord and the Lord's devotee, and the Lord's pure devotees. And so we offer our obeisances. This is not my body, it's yours. Please protect me, please save me, please enlighten me. Right? So, understanding or glorifying that person, the Supreme Person or the Guru, sets up the contrast. Everything works by contrast. You only see things by contrast. That's why we're discussing this mood of dainya. You know, dainya means that you recognize your complete insignificance, your helplessness, you know. But the Lord is so great. He's so all-attractive, so powerful. In contrast, please save me. Please let me come to you again, even though I'm so unfortunate and so unqualified. So the same thing is there with the obeisances, and then the glorification. You are so great. I am so small. Please save me. Without that glorification, you may forget the actual relationship. It sets up the relationship. So let's look at that second part now. And I think I have a little section here. So part 2. Now, interesting. From the Sanskrit dictionary, we get this definition of Vandanaà. The act of praising or praise. This is the primary definition. Reverence, especially obeisance to a Brahmin or superior by touching the feet, or worship and adoration. So you see how they're tied in. But the primary meaning of this word Vandanaā is to glorify. But it's come to mean obeisance as well as glorification. And just a sidelight, there's a word in Sanskrit called Vandis. You know who the Vandis are? Vandis in the English as a word is probably just as mysterious to you. Panegyrist. Who knows what a panegyrist is? Okay. A professional praiser. A professional praiser. So if you read... So there's one phrase, I'll give you this verse, because it talks about how the bees in Vrindavan, they are turned into Vandis by the fragrance of Krishna's garland and by the nectar coming from the mango buds. So Krishna says this verse as he enters into Vrindavan. Sugandhao ma kanda pakadamakadandasya madure vinisyande vandi kutamadabhavrindam mahuridam kutando lan mando natabinadalais chandanagare Mamanandam Vrindav Panamatulan Tundalayati. You hear all those NDs? Like in Ananda and Nandanandana? The ND sound in Sanskrit is evocative of bliss. Yes. And the double L is evocative of the conjugal between Krishna and the gopis. This is a little sidelight. So anyway, Sukandhama Kanda Pakadamakadana. You see, he puts it together. So what he's saying there is that the sweet fragrance of the the sweet fragrance of the mango buds. No, the fragrance of the juice dripping from the mango buds is again and again attracting swarms of bees in Vrindavan, and they're turned into Vandis. In other words, Vandi Kutamba. They are now buzzing and humming around Krishna, and of course they're not just buzzing and humming; they're singing all kinds of shlokas that steal his mind away from the Vedas. He says it in another verse. And this whole forest is everything is moving like this when the breeze is coming from the Malaya hills, which are full of sandalwood, so it's very fragrant. In this way, says Krishna, this Vrindavan forest is increasing my bliss more and more. And Krishna speaks this verse. So I just thought I'd throw that in. The Vandis are those who do Vandana. Now, but Vandana more broadly indicates these three elements: the offer of obeisances, the glorification, and the prayer. So, but from this definition, and remembering that the gold standard of obeisances is defined in the Bhagavatam 10.14.8, which we had earlier, Ridvagva Purbe Vidadan Namaste, offering obeisance with one's heart, words, and body, we can see that glorification is an essential part of complete Vandana. You see that? Another point is that glorifying the object of one's obeisances, the Lord or the Lord's devotee, helps one realize one's own significance and helplessness without the mercy and shelter of the person to whom one is offering respects. I made this point earlier. Thus it inspires one to full surrender, which is the essential meaning of Namaha. Namaha and Prapannam, these are essential factors in our practice. Finally, the type of praise one offers will define what one prays for, the third element of Vandana. And what I mean by that is that you'll find in some of the prayers that Rupa Goswami has in his books, is that the obeisance is kind of understood, and he'll glorify Krishna's sweet form and so forth, and he'll pray for love. You pray for prema. That's the basic prayer, So, but if you're feeling very helpless in this world and you recognize Krishna's superiority, you'll pray for protection. Right? Please protect me from this, this roiling sea of the world. So that's also part of it. And here, like Arjun, right? He offered obeisances, he offered praise, and then he prayed to Krishna, please, I don't want to see this universal form anymore. Please, show me the other part. So as you glorify, that will determine what kind of prayer you ultimately come to. So here's a few combination verses. Many of the ones we already had have glorification as well as obeisances. These are more obvious. The Bhagavatam abounds with glorification integrated with obeisances. Like many of the verses already cited, the very first verse of Queen Kunti's prayers is a good example. Namasye Purusham Tvajam Ishwaram Prakate Param Alakshyam Sarvabhutanam Antar Bahiravastitam. O Krishna, I offer my obeisance unto you, because you are the original personality and are unaffected by the qualities of the material world. You are existing both within and without everything, yet you are invisible to all. Now, one thing I just wanted to mention, recently, probably many of you participated in the Kartik of singing Damodarastaka, right? Every day? Some of you did that? So, you study the Damodarastaka, it begins and ends with Namaha. Namam Visharam, right? Namam Visharam, such a, and then it ends with Namaste Stu Damne Spuraditi Damne. And the last word is Namaha. I offer obeisances. So, it's interesting. This is Damodar. He's meditating on Damodar. But he understands Namam Ishwaram, Satchidananda. This is the Lord, Supreme Personality of God, with a Satchidananda body. And then in the middle, he also, Namo Deva Damodarananta Vishnu. He recognizes who he is. But what is his prayer? You see, he's kind of going back and forth, just like Kunti. Recognizing the supremacy of the Lord, but praying for just to have that wonderful pastime and that wonderful form of Bala Gopal manifest in his heart. That's his ultimate prayer. I don't want to go to Vaikuntha. I don't want liberation. See? I just want to have that sweet remembrance of you. So it's a perfect example there. Glorification, obeisance, glorification, and then the specific prayer for his mood, which is ultimately parental, apparently. He wants to see that Lord. So now going on with some more glorification. There's Gajendra. Gajendra's prayers are very famous. Maharaj mentioned them. And this one, Namaste, Namaste, there's like three Namahas here, because he's helpless. He's really crying out. Gajendra is so interesting. It's almost like Draupadi, right? He tried on his own. It's actually 1,000 years, if I recall, wasn't it? He's in the 1,000 years struggling with this crocodile. And then finally the remembrance comes to him of what he remembered in his previous life, and this is his last chance. He has the lotus up there he's offering. So, and just before we go on to read this one, in the purport to one of these, Ramaprabhupada Maharaj mentioned it, how Prabhupada recommends that we learn some verses, right? So that what Prabhupada actually says there, he didn't say it, is that, therefore, if my disciples, even if they become animals in their next life, they'll still remember these verses. Just like Prabhupada. By the time he got to the 8th canto, we saw that some of us were like... You see the history of ISKCON actually in the Bhagavatam as you go along. So this is a beautiful prayer. Let's see if you could join me. Namo namaste kilakaranaya nishkaranaya bhutakaranaya sarvagamamnaya maharnavaya namo pavargaya parayanaya. Is there anything like that in English? They can't call it candle. It's so beautiful. My Lord, you are the cause of all causes, but you yourself have no cause. Therefore, you are the wonderful cause of everything. I offer my respectful obeisance unto you, who are the shelter of the Vedic knowledge contained in the Shastras like the Pancharatras and Vedanta Sutra, which are your representations, and who are the source of the Parampara system. Because it is you who can give liberation, you are the only shelter for all transcendentalists. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Now, in this particular verse, he doesn't pray for anything. He's not asking for anything, but he'll eventually get to the point of praying for salvation from this. And, of course, Vishnu comes there and saves him. And he also delivers the crocodile, right? Because he kills the crocodile, and whoever Vishnu kills is also delivered. There's one example of many. In Prahlad Maharaj's prayers to Lord Nrsingadev, now these are some of the most famous prayers and also the most extensive in the Bhagavatam. In those prayers to Lord Nrsinga in the 7th canto, he begins with prostrated obeisances. In other words, he's already offered his obeisances, and Nrsingadev lifts him up, and if you recall, he touches him with his hand so that suddenly he's inspired. He can utter all his Sanskrit prayers. Just like Dhruva, right? Dhruva also got the touch of the conch shell, and then he could offer the prayers. So he's already bowed down, and Nrsingadev, just by seeing Prahlad bow down, he's pacified. You remember the run-up to that. Maharaj mentioned all of these different demigods, and even Lakshmi offered their specific prayer from a good distance, because Nrsingadev is raging there, and they're offering their prayers, and it doesn't pacify Nrsingadev, right? So they say, Prahlad, you go forward. He likes you. Maybe you could pacify. So he goes and he doesn't say anything. He just bows down, and immediately Nrsingadev is, his heart overwhelms with love, and he lifts him up, and you see he's giving them a blessing there with his hand. So most of the verses are glorification of the Lord and expressions of humility in the mood of a conditioned soul. This is when Prahlad is teaching us how to pray. What actual prayers there are usually for all the conditioned souls. And here's an example of that. This is Prahlad's mood is very important to study because it's exactly Prabhupada's mood in coming to America and the preaching mood. Evam sakarma patitam bhavavaitaranyam anyonya janma madanashana bhita bhitam Pashyang janam sapara vigraha vaira maitram Hanteti pada charapi prihi mudhamadya. My dear Lord, you are always transcendently situated on the other side of the river of death. But because of the reactions of our own activities, we are suffering on this side. Indeed, we have fallen into this river and are repeatedly suffering the pains of birth and death and eating horrible things. Now kindly look upon us, not only upon me, but also upon all others who are suffering, and by your causeless mercy, deliver us and maintain us. Now those who are familiar with the prayers of Prahlad, it's very interesting that the next prayer, or the one after it, he says, I'm not suffering. You see, in this particular verse, he's identifying with all those who are conditioned and suffering birth and death. And others also before this. But in the next verse, in these two verses, I highly recommend that you study them because they completely reflect the mood of Prabhupada coming to America. And indeed, practically in the purports, he explains that. This is, inspiring, was inspiring to him. So he says, says, I don't have, personally, here he's revealing his real situation. I don't have any anxiety, because I'm already beyond the river of birth and death. Here he says that you're on the other side and we're on this side. But in this particular verse he says, any place I am, I can always chant your glories and be immersed in a river or ocean of nectar. Because he always experienced that. They tried to boil him in oil. They tried to throw him off a cliff, crush him by elephants, every way that you can think. And he was unaffected. That means that his mind was completely absorbed in Krishna. He didn't suffer anything. But what is his suffering? I am lamenting, Shoche, for these fools and rascals who don't know about you and are trying to enjoy flickering happiness in this world. My heart is breaking for them. And the next verse, I won't get into detail, he says, mostly anyone who wants liberation, they want it for themselves. Mukti kama. It's a kind of lust, just to want my own liberation and to hell with everyone else. And in that mood, they wander around in the forest and the caves, away from the cities, trying to meditate and go up to the Brahman. He said, I'm not like that. I'm not going to give up these fools and rascals because they have no other shelter but you. And they don't know that, therefore I'm going to have to give them you, Krishna consciousness. That's the exact mood of this movement, and it's worth studying. Just look on the next verse, 7, 9, 42, 43, you'll see that. So this is a prayer, but I picked this one because he's glorifying Nrsingadev here as being completely transcendental and so forth. And he's not praying really for himself, and you'll see that Prahlad is so exalted that he doesn't ask anything. He has to be encouraged by Nrsingadev to ask. So that brings us to the prayer aspect. In other words, you have the obeisances, and then the glorification, and then there's also a request. It's okay to request things from Krishna, but we have to know what to request. And that our acharyas teach us. Lord Chaitanya teaches us. Three of the verses in Shikshastra are prayers. Number 4, 5, and 6. So let's study here. Once one has offered obeisances and glorified the Lord, the general culmination of Vandanam is what in English we know as prayer. Quote, a devout petition to God. Queen Kunti and Prahlad Maharaj provide ideal examples. Sincere Vaishnavas pray for pure devotion or for that which facilitates pure devotion. Sorry about that. That which facilitates pure devotion. So here, after all of her prayers, she has... 18 to 42. There's like 25 prayers in the prayers of Queen Kunti in chapter 8. This is the second to last one. And this is where, here she's praying, and before she has a prayer also. And this, I put it into a little poem. Tvaime nanne vishaya matir modapate sakrit Ratamun Vahataradha Gange Vaughamudhanvati. O Madhu's Lord, please ever fill my mind with thoughts of Thee, not any other kind. As Ganges torrent flows into the sea, let all my love flow constantly to Thee. This is what she's praying for. This is a pure prayer. She's not. And in the previous verse, she prays that her attraction or attachment for the Pandavas and the Vrishnis, who are right by her side, by the way, when you read, isn't it? When you read before she begins her prayers, is that she approached Krishna with the Pandavas and her other relatives by her, and then she's not alone, but she's in such an exalted state. This is all very high stuff. Let that be broken, and all my love go to you, because everything is ended now. The battle is won. Krishna is departing. Things are winding up. So this is a very exalted, sentiment of Queen Kunti. We can pray like that to the deity. Why not? Prahlad, back to Prahlad. Prahlad was reluctant to ask Lord Nrsingadev for a boon, protesting that he was not doing business with the Lord. I'm not a vanik. The word vanik is used, a businessman. Because Nrsingadev, after he completed the prayers, he says, oh, Prahlad, you can now ask any boon from me that you like. Because he hadn't requested anything. He requested that all of the conditioned souls be saved, but on his own part, he really hadn't asked. But then, seeing that it would please the Lord to bestow a boon on his pure devotee, Prahlad asked for two. One, that his father would be delivered, and the other, in this famous verse that echoes his prayer cited earlier from the 5th canto. You remember that long prayer I mentioned, how I memorized? That material desires will be gone. But this is even more famous because it's shorter. Yadidasasi me kaman vadangstwang vadadarshaba kamanam ridya sangroham bhavadastu vernevaram. O my Lord, best of the givers of benediction, Vadadarshaba, if you at all want to bestow a desirable benediction upon me, then I pray from your Lordship that within the core of my heart there be no material desires. Now that's a perfect prayer. We can offer that to Krishna or to Lord Nrsingadev. Now it's interesting that this word asangroham. Now roha means to take root. Root, like Roma Harshan. Roma is so you don't want these desires. Now, whatever desires are there, material desires, you want to, dissipate, cleanse them, rip them out with the Nrsingadev with his nails. But you don't want any to take root. This is another important point. Because sometimes, if we allow ourselves again to get slack in our devotion, those desires will come up again. This is mentioned in the Madhya Lila, in the cleansing of Gundicha temple. I highly recommend this chapter. At the very end is a wonderful purport about how devotees need to clean their hearts so that Lord Jagannath will be pleased to sit there. Just like you clean the altar, and Lord sits there peacefully. So the heart is like an altar. You're trying to make an altar, but it has to be clean. Krishna will be very happy to sit there. He's always there, but he'll be happy to manifest there. So I like that word, asangroham, so that in my heart no material desires will take root and grow. Perfect prayer, benediction. Lord Chaitanya, of course, in his Shikshastika teaches us the perfect attitude of humility, which is the essence of sincere obeisances, in the 3rd verse. And then in verses 4, 5, and 6, he teaches us how to pray. Shri Shri Kishore Kishori Ki Jai. So, oftentimes we're asked, I don't know, how to pray, or can I just offer my own prayers? Well, yes, we can, but we need to know what to ask for. This is a large part of our philosophy, and we're going to get to this in another session of praying through the chanting of Hare Krishna mantra. That should also be done prayerfully. There's a desire we have, right? Prabhupada summarized it. Oh, Radha and Krishna, please engage me in your service. In the mood, this dainya mood, a helpless mood of a child to his mother, right? Calling to his mother. So, in his Shikshastika, Lord Chaitanya is teaching us what to pray for and what not to pray for. In this verse is what I don't want. That's also important, because these are the common things that people pray for who are not in touch with this pure philosophy. So here's the first one. First prayer. Now, I mentioned how, where's the obeisances? Well, there's no direct obeisance as such in the Shikshastika. But Trinadapi Sunichena is exactly the mood of obeisance, isn't it? Of Namaha. Is that to feel oneself as lower than the straw in the street, be tolerant, desire no fame for oneself, and giving all honor to others. That's the mood of offering obeisances. So that sets up the rest of the prayers here. Nadanang najanang nasundarim Kavitang vag jagadisha kamaye Mama janmani janmanishware Bhavatan bhakti rahaitu kitvahi. This is another of my little poetic renditions, forgive me. Wealth and women, followers, the fruits of mundane piety, liberation from this world of limitless anxiety. For me, O Lord, such common goals have not the slightest worth. Let me serve you purely now and in each future birth. So, it's really important to know what not to pray for. Because this is what, there's so many religions, right? People take up dharma, artha, kama, moksha. There's these 4 goals. So people take up religion, which Prabhupada branded as religiosity, to get artha. Artha are material things of value, money and other things that money can buy. So there's so many people who feel themselves religious. They may go to church, they may go to this or that. But what are they praying for? Why are they going? What is their goal in doing this? And generally, it's something material. Now, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, that's okay as a first step. Right? Chaturvadha bhajante mam jana sukatano jana. Even to approach God for your material problems, needing wealth or in trouble, artha, or curiosity or even knowledge, that's good. But ultimately, we need to graduate from that platform. If you stay on that platform, then as Prabhupada says in another context, if your material desire is fulfilled, then you'll stop praying. Thank you very much. And then if you're also on that platform and you pray and you pray and you pray and you don't get it, you said, there's no God up there. I'm a perfectly pious person. And nothing. You see what I'm saying? So the material platform, we have to get off of that. And here Lord Chaitanya is teaching us. Ahaituki bhakti. This word appears again and again. It means without material motivation. And what's the motivation? Simply to please Krishna. That's the one motivation that we should cultivate. So this is what he's praying for, not even liberation, which is coveted by those who really understand the material world. And then he goes on. Now notice that the name he uses here is a generic name. He doesn't speak of Krishna, the son of Nanda, or anything. This is Ishvare, right? Jagadisha, the Lord. So this is, but then in the next verse, he says, the son of Nanda. We're speaking about Krishna here. See, he's moving up the scale. So the next verse, Ainandatanu jakinkaram Patitang mam vishamem bhavam bodhao Kripaya tava pada pankaja Stitaduli sadrashang vachintaya. Your servant for eternity, I lost my true identity and fell into this horrid sea of birth and death, O Lord. O Nanda's son, please hear my plea. By your sweet grace, consider me a speck of dust upon your lotus feet forevermore. So this is a perfect prayer, obviously, composed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And even just the first word, this ai, this is in the mood of dainya, it's a mood of desperation. Ai dina dayadanatahe. I quoted that verse from this morning from Madhavendra Puri. The Sanskrit is a perfect language. There's different kinds of exclamations of oh. There's ha and there's hanta. There's a ho and there's ai. And each one has a slightly different meaning. So this ai is a desperate call from someone who is, as he describes, I've fallen into this ocean of birth and death. I'm drowning here. Please pick me up and reinstate me in my position as your eternal servant. That's what the meaning is, said metaphorically. So we should chant these every day. I mean, it's recommended in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Those who chant the Shikshastik every day, which you're doing here nicely, will attain prema bhakti. So don't neglect it, and enter into the mood of them. And then further, he's praying for perfection in his devotion. In other words, that when will that day be mine? When my tears will fall, and my hair will stand on end. We have songs like that. It's based on this idea. Nayanang galadashadharaya Vadanang gadhadudhayagera Pulaka nichitang vapukada Tavanama gahane bhavishyati. Tears streaming from my eyes, my voice choked with bliss, the hairs upon my body standing up in happiness. When will all these signs of rapture decorate my limbs as I chant your holy name, the monarch of all hymns? So this is a prayer for perfection in devotional service. You read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Nectar of Devotion, you see that this is necessary. We have to feel, in one sense, uneasy about our level of advancement. Just like if you want to become perfect in something material, you can't say, well, I'm a pretty good violinist now. That's about it, right? All right, fine. That's as far as you'll get. But if you want to be a professional, you want to achieve something perfect, then you have to want that. You have to keep your determination and your utsaha, your enthusiasm. So he's teaching us how to long for that state of perfection, where we actually feel ecstatic love for Krishna. That's part of our philosophy. So it's a very advanced prayer, but he's teaching us here. And I think, let's see. And now, there are unlimited prayers in our Vaishnava literature. And we will explore some in other sessions. But for now, we end with the last few verses of Srila Prabhupada's Markine Bhagavad Dharma. Because Lord Krishna answered these prayers of his pure devotee, all our lives have been blessed. And we can see that we're really resting on Krishna's fulfillment of Prabhupada's prayer here. So I'm sure you're familiar with this, but I'll just reiterate it. It's so beautiful. So Prabhupada says, he's on this boat, about to land in Boston, right? Or he's just landed, I think. And this is what he's thinking as he looks around the bleak landscape of the Boston harbor. How will I make the ignorant Westerners understand this message of Krishna consciousness? I'm very unfortunate, unqualified, and the most fallen. This is your dainya, see? Therefore, I'm seeking your benediction so that I can convince them, for I am powerless to do so on my own. Somehow or other, O Lord, you have brought me here to speak about you. Now, my Lord, it's up to you to make me a success or failure as you like. O spiritual master of all the worlds, here's your glorification. I can simply repeat your message, so if you like, you can make my power of speaking suitable for their understanding. Only by your causeless mercy will my words become pure. I am sure that when this transcendental message penetrates their hearts, they will certainly feel engladdened and thus become liberated from all unhappy conditions of life. O Lord, I am just like a puppet in your hands, so if you have brought me here to dance, then make me dance, O Lord, make me dance as you like. I have no devotion, nor do I have any knowledge, but I have strong faith in the holy name of Krishna. I have been designated as Bhaktivedanta, and now, if you like, you can fulfill the real purport of Bhaktivedanta. Signed, the most unfortunate, insignificant beggar, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, on board the ship Jaladuta Commonwealth Pier, Boston, Massachusetts, USA, dated 18 September 1965. So this is, beautiful prayer, and you can see this is a custom-made prayer. We can also compose prayers like that, in this mood of helplessness for specific things. You see, what is he praying for? For something to facilitate his service. We can pray for pure devotion to Krishna, or we can pray for anything to facilitate our service. That's a perfect prayer, and I think that completes that's the end. But just to wind up, those three elements: you have your obeisances, your glorification, and your prayer. If you go through some of these 9,000 verses of prayers that Maharaj mentioned this morning, you said, was it half of them or more than half? I never did a count. That's pretty remarkable. But you'll see, you can't read very long. You got Kunti's prayers, you got Bhishma prayers, you got Shukadev's prayers, Prahlad prayers, Akrura's prayers. They're throughout the Bhagavatam. This is an integral part of our literature, and they're all giving us instruction about how to pray. They're giving us models. If you repeat them, if you read them, share them with each other, you enter into the mood that they had in offering those prayers. And this furthers our devotion. And we can also, pray like that. Oftentimes these prayers are completely okay for us. Just like this, Vaime Nanda Vishaya. I offer it practically every day to Krishna. Why not? O Madhava, O Madhava, please ever fill my mind with thoughts of thee, not any other kind. As Ganges torrent flows into the sea, let all my love flow constantly to thee. That's a gift, That's from Krishna. So, any questions or comments? It's the end of our first session here. I don't know what time it is. The clock has disappeared. But, okay. So we're a little early, but there it is. Any discussion? I can give you a few more prayers. Yes. Oh, you want to use this? Oh, you got it. Okay, fine.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Haribol Bhakti Glenn.
In the glorification section, is there usually also that element of, at the same time, looking the person offering the prayer, acknowledging their own limitation and inability?
That's often there. You'll find that in Prahlad's prayers extensively. As I say, it establishes a contrast. Just like Prabhupada did here, I'm so insignificant, you're the spiritual master of the universe. If you like, you have the power, Prabhupada had the faith, to make my power of speaking suitable for them. That was what he was praying for. So yeah, both of those are there. They're perfectly appropriate. Just like, anyway, there's so many prayers like that. Prahlad comes to mind. Akrura, like I was mentioning this morning, just to review Akrura's prayers, because we're not going to deal with them later. But Akrura, he has different sections of his prayers. And the ones before the ones Maharaj read it in the class, he says, Bhagavan jiva loko yam mohitastava mahaya aham mame jasagraho brahmate karma vartmasu. In this first verse, there's like a section there. He says, O Bhagavan, Supreme Personality of Godhead, he's glorifying. In this world, all the people who are conditioned, they're bewildered by your maya, mohitastava mahaya. And in that condition, aham mameti, they're all considering I am the body and relationships in the body are mine, right? And this is asadgraha. This is called asadgraha, means a false or bad philosophy or way of grasping things. The word graha means different things in different contexts. But each of us has a philosophy, a way of seeing the world. Sometimes it's called a darsha. Here it's called a graha. So in that way of viewing the world, saturated with I and mine, brahmyate karma vartmasu, they're wandering on the paths of karma. You see? But he doesn't just say that. Then he takes a humble position, Akrura. Says, aham chatmatma jagada dara dasvajanadishu brahmami swapnakalpeshu mudha satyadhyavibho. You may have caught that word mudha. You know what that means. So Akrura is talking about himself there. He says, I'm also one of these. I'm identifying with the body and the wife and the children and the home and the money and the relatives. And even though these are all like a dream, I'm taking them to be true because I'm such a fool. And then he has this verse that just struck me when I read it. It's so, sometimes you read something that just like a light bulb goes off. And he says there, Anityanat, in this condition that I'm in, Anityanatma dukkeshu viparhi amatiriyaham dvandvaramo dvandvaramas tamo vishto najare tvatmanak priyam. So he says there that my whole conception of life in this illusion, taking the position of a conditioned soul now, is reversed. You see, it's often like, that beginning of this 15th chapter, Gita, the upside down banyan tree. So everything is backwards, without Krishna in the center, we're all backwards. So he says, Anityanatma dukkeshu viparya. That which is temporary, anitya, I'm taking to be permanent. Right? And people live like that. That's the most wonderful thing, according to Yudhishthira. And we're seeing so many people dying, but we think, that won't happen to me. We know intellectually that it will happen, but we live as if we were living forever. So that which is temporary, I'm thinking is permanent. That which is not me, I'm thinking is me. That which is sources of misery, I'm taking to be sources of pleasure. You see? And in that role, dvandva ramas, I'm trying to enjoy the dualities of this world, and tamo vishto, entering further and further into darkness. And the worst tragedy, my Lord, he's praying to Krishna in the Yamuna. He's looking at Balaram Sankirtan, the manifestation of Krishna, and he's praying to both of them. Najane tvatmanak priyam. I do not understand that you are my dearmost master and friend. Najane tvatmanak priyam. And then he says, he's describing himself. Yatabodo jalam hitva parichannam tadudbhavai abhyati magatishnam vai tadvataham paramaka. I'm just like a fool. See, imagine this scene. You're in a desert, but there's an oasis. And you're standing on the edge of the oasis. And you're thirsty. Really thirsty. But you're in the oasis. And next to you is this pool of cool water, pure water, which unfortunately is overgrown with leaves and things and plants, so you can't see it. You're looking out into the desert, and there's this mirage of cooling water, right? And so you run out into the desert. He says, I'm just like a fool who neglects the water at his feet and is running outside. We have Krishna in the heart, but those who are looking outside, the external, bahirartamanina, they are again and again being. So he says, "Tudvat faham paranmukha." I've turned my face away from you. Now, just one little note on this, because this material world serves as a covering of Krishna, right? But it's grown up from Krishna, just like the leaves and the plants are grown up from the water and cover the water. Similarly, this material energy grows from Krishna and covers Krishna for the conditioned souls. So it's very this philosophical. And then he has that verse I chanted, Notsaheham Kripanadir. I know this, but still I don't have the strength to control my mind, which is being whipped around by the senses and everything like that. So now what to do? I know the philosophy, but I can't follow it. Then he says, Soham Tavanga Bhagatosu Satam Dorapam. He says, even though your lotus feet are difficult to attain for someone like me, still you're so merciful that if I just throw myself at your lotus feet and pray, I have hope that you'll bless me. You know. So this is a perfect prayer, the perfect model. Now, who's qualified? I know I'm not qualified for any of these things, but because I've heard from the spiritual master and from the books that Krishna is so merciful, if we simply call out to him with deep feeling by chanting the holy name and all the other services, then there's hope that he'll still smile on us and bless us and bring him toward him. That's this is Kura is the acharya for prayer. So you enter into that mood. Was there a question behind that? I forgot. I'm sorry. You were first. Go ahead, Imanshu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you so much for your presentation. I was thinking if you would like to share maybe just a few prayers of gratitude that one may offer to the spiritual master.
Okay. And one may offer to the spiritual master. Well, let's see. I'm just thinking of the Guru Vashtik and I'm thinking of the Guru Vandanaà prayer, but it's not actually gratitude, but nothing comes to mind perfectly. But generally, we can compose our own prayers for that. But just to focus on that attitude of gratitude. I didn't make that up. I've heard that before. The attitude of gratitude. I think it was Sachinandan Swami who had that. How to chant the holy name, sincerely. This is a major theme, I often tell our bhaktas, we have a bunch of bhaktas down in San Diego, training in brahmacharis, that you have to get into the meaning of the words. The intelligence is so important. I was reading this morning the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and I think it's 20 to 23 where he describes the state of samadhi, and he says, Buddhi grayam atindriyam, you experience this bliss, this highest happiness, by the intelligence, the purified intelligence. So just think about the first words, those of us who are fortunate, come to Mangalarti, the first words that you utter in the day, besides your obeisances, of course, samsara dava nanalita loka tranaya. What is that? You should feel the heat. It's describing the blazing fire of material existence that everybody is suffering in, including us. But the spiritual master, like a cloud of mercy, is tranaya, delivering we and us and everyone else from this forest fire by pouring down the words and the holy name and everything else that we have. So therefore, the first mood should be thankfulness, gratitude for these gifts. That's the basic mood toward the spiritual master. And there's so much gratitude that I can never repay the debt. When you actually realize the value of the gift. I'm going to tell in this afternoon, Prabhupada deals with that in the prayers of Kunti, is the story of Sanatan and the Chintamani jewel. I won't tell it now. But Chintamani means you touch it to anything and it turns to gold. And he was keeping it in the rubbish pile. In other words, he wasn't really concerned about it. So he had something more valuable. Hare Krishna mantra, right? I was thinking how fortunate we are, fortunate few, about who knows, 10 million people in the greater Chicago area, whatever. There's a handful of us here, and most of us aren't even from Chicago, right? I'm not. But how fortunate. They had this lottery a few weeks ago. What was it, $400 million or something? It's ridiculous. I was in Alachua, actually, when it went on. And people line up all night, they buy 10 tickets, they pray, who knows what, that I'm going to... But actually they've done a study, and people who win the lottery are more miserable than the people who lose, you know that? Just imagine, you're an ordinary Joe, you're going to work, or maybe you're unemployed now, and suddenly, $200 million or $100 million or $50 million falls into your lap. Now what do I do? Well, suddenly you got all these relatives you didn't know about, right? All kinds of friends and things, and you can't. Your lifestyle is completely overthrown. Your simple life. So practically everybody, they've done a study. But we've won the lottery. We have won the real lottery. Better than the lottery or the Chintamani stone is the holy name, the process of bhakti. After all these births, so we should appreciate that. And how have we gotten it? Through the agency of the spiritual master and the whole parampara. So that attitude of gratitude is a foundation for our devotional life, because we're conditioned souls, and there's always that temptation to slack off and to give it up. But if we're reminded daily, or remind ourselves daily, of the great value we've been given. I remember when we studied the sixth canto, and a Jamil. Remember the Jamil? And after a Jamil is delivered, right, he'd become a nonsense for so many years, right? But then he was delivered because he uttered Narayan. You know the story. So then he witnessed this conversation between the Vishnu Dutas and the Yama Dutas. And, he was enlightened by that. And then he lamented, wasn't it? He lamented, I blew it. I was so sinful. And Prabhupada mentions in there how we should always remember, my disciples, because that's all there was at that time, should always remember where they came from and how they've been benefited. Because by the time the sixth canto came around, he was also seeing that some of his leaders, what to speak of others, were falling away sometimes. And he was trying to encourage us to renew that remembrance every day, so that we'll always be, flooded with gratitude and eagerness and determination to stay on the path and spread Krishna consciousness. So that didn't exactly answer your question, but it's the best I can do right now. All right, should I go for 5 minutes? We're scheduled to 1. Does anyone have any other comment or question? Maybe from the ladies' side? About the 3 elements of Vandanaā. The obeisances, and the glorification, and the prayer. Okay, so I'll just share a couple of prayers. Okay, go ahead.
Hare Krishna. I heard some time back from a devotee that after we pay obeisances, after we glorify, and then also we should utter the holy name and then pray.
Are you talking about before chanting japa or something?
No, while paying obeisances before
you mean to the deities.
Yeah.
I've never heard that. I mean, it's certainly appropriate to chant the holy name any time, any place. Then let me not discourage you. But I have not specifically heard that. Anyway, there's a couple of prayers that are bouncing around in my mind, so I'm going to share. When you read Rupa Goswami's works, he offers prayers a lot of times, given prayers. The one that comes to mind, he says, this is to Krishna. It says, Ujanga da pachandaka asparada khanda chudankare Nirankasha draganchala brahmina bodda bring up brahme Patanga duhitastati vanukati rekedi priye Paraspurutu me mahus Paraspurutu me mahus Twai mukunda shuddharati. And some of you may have noticed that word, shuddharati. That's what he's praying for. So he says, you wear the best of crests, a crown of perfect peacock plumes. Your dancing glances stun the bees meandering midst the blooms. You relish love play in a cottage by Kalindi's shore. O Krishna, may pure love for you be mine forevermore. So this is just one prayer from Rupa Goswami. A similar prayer, which I try to offer every day during the greeting. This is one of the last verses Rupa Goswami wrote. It's in a prayer called the Utkalika Valari, which is it's full of prayers. It's called the creeper of desire. It's like the what is it? Kusumanjali, Vilap Kusumanjali. So near the end, he has this very simple prayer. Anyone can offer this. This is Pashupala Varinya Nandano Vadametang Moharati He Yuvam Bhavatu Panayo Bhave Bhave Bhavatoreva Patambu Jeshume. O Radha Krishna, children of the best of cowherd men, This single boon I beg from you again and yet again. In all the countless births my endless sins will make me meet. Let all my love flow toward your luscious, lustrous lotus feet. So you notice that there's a dainya in there. I'm so fallen, I'm going to take birth again and again, but this is what I want. Please let me have love for you. Similar Bhaktivinoda songs, okay, let me be born again, but at least in the family of a devotee, right? At least in the house so I can have... So this is the kind of prayers that you find, and the writings of the Goswamis are filled with these prayers. And it's always, for pure love for Krishna, or that which leads to pure love for Krishna. Let me always have the association of devotees, without which there's no possibility of devotion. So we're taught like that. Thank you very much for your attention. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I think 4:30 tonight we have Kunti's prayers. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. The lunch is being served downstairs. Please